Welcome to Firefly and I. My name is Anna and I travel full-time in my converted Ford Transit Firefly with my little dog Sterling and my wonderful new kitten Inara. If you've been following us, you've seen some of our travels so far, and we've been absolutely loving our time on the road. I've been partially or fully nomadic for most of my adult life, and I would love to share with you some of the tips and tricks I've learned along the way. The name of the series is How to Get Started in Van Life, but van life is more a state of mind than the actual vehicle that you're going to have. You can have an RV, a trailer, a van, a Skoolie, all sorts of different ways to truly enjoy this absolutely beautiful world that we live in. We're going to be exploring that through interviews today, and then in the course below, we're going to go through detailed pros and cons and an activity to see what you like best.
I knew if I could invest into a home, a studio, and live really, really poorly for a while, that this dream could actually become a successful business.
I love it.
I mean, it's like you're sleeping in a time capsule.
The more I camp in it, the more I spend time in her. I love it, and it just makes me reinforce that I made the right decision.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me again this week. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season if that's something that you do celebrate. I am here in very snowy Buena Vista, Colorado. Been here visiting family for the holidays. Still quite socially distanced, but at least me and Sterling and Inara got to spend some time with my dad, and then went down to Denver to spend some time with my mom and have a little campfire, and also do a virtual gathering with our extended family, which was very nice to see everybody. And yeah, so here I am. I'm going to be doing some of the episode from inside of the house. I'm actually staying inside my dad's house because I had a minor propane leak, which obviously any propane leak is not necessarily minor. I was able to locate and find it and fix it, but woke up smelling propane one night, so did not want to be in here blasting the propane heater while smelling that. So got that fixed up, and I'm ready to hit the road again in a couple days. So for this episode, like I've said before, we're going to be talking about what vehicle to choose if you're going to be doing van life. Obviously van life in quotes, because it could also be RV life or road life. I think van life has kind of become a catch-all phrase for more of a feeling of being on the road, for more of a certain community of people that live on the road full time and are choosing this, life fairly intentionally, or maybe they got put into it because of financial circumstances or whatever. So a million different reasons to get into van life. But a big, huge consideration is what vehicle to do it in. So I'm going to be having a few interviews with people that live in different kind of vehicles, so you can see their story and really hear firsthand why they chose what they did. I'll tell you why I chose Firefly. There will be a corresponding course. If you've watched the previous video about how to make money on the road, you know that this is a 4-part series accompanied by a How to Get Started in Van Life course. So in that course, I'll be really diving a lot deeper into the pros and cons of every kind of vehicle that you can really choose to get out on the road with. And this video is going to be more about listening to some of those stories and hearing a few of those opinions. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper and also, do some exercises that help you figure out what you want, then click on the course below in the comments. For now, let's get started with talking about RVs. So if you buy a built-out RV, obviously one of the pros is that it's built by professionals. It usually comes with a warranty if you do buy new, which buying new and buying used is its own conversation, because if you buy new, yes, you get the warranty, but they also depreciate very, very quickly. So if you're buying an RV, I tend to recommend that you buy used, just because they do depreciate like the minute you drive off the lot, and then you're out of luck if you decide that you don't like that particular RV and want to sell it. So with that being said, they are built by professionals. I tend to not really love the materials that they're built in with. They tend to be really kind of cheaper woods, light materials that do cut down on weight, but just are a little flimsy. Things do break a lot in RVs. I mean, things break in vans. Honestly, any of these options, you're not getting like completely reliable stuff unless you're getting like very, very hugely top end things, which most of us can't afford. So the appliances and things like that come with RVs, you're getting kind of the lower end on some of that. You're not going to get the top of the line lithium batteries most of the time. So yeah, RVs have a lot of plus and negatives to them. With the Class A's, they're huge, they're great, they have a lot of room. The luxury ones are obviously expensive, but you can find older ones for less expensive. But these are probably mostly for people who, travel more slowly, probably want to be in campgrounds with full hookups, which hookups mean that you have sewer, electric, and water hooked up. And then, you can, like I said, get the older, newer ones. The older ones are going to have more mechanical problems, but you can find them for very cheap. They also are very not maneuverable. They're very large. Then you have the Class Bs that are going to be more the van style. These tend to be more expensive than Class Bs and Class Cs because of the way that they need to be built is very compact, very efficient. So they can run, usually around 100K new. And then the Class B plus, it's technically a Class C. Colloquially, it is a Class B plus, which means it looks like a van, but may have a slide out or something different to make it a little bit bigger. And then you have the Class Cs, which are, bigger vehicles that usually have a little loft above the cab, and they're, bigger than the van, but smaller than a huge Class A. So each of these have the pros and cons. Vans, very nimble, get around a lot easier, are a little bit more expensive, and you're cutting down on a lot of space for those ones. If you've been following me for a little while, you may remember Josh, who was in my frequently asked questions video. He just bought a new RV, a Class B plus, and so I wanted to get some of his thoughts to share with you. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Anna.
So the last time that you were on the YouTube channel with me, you were thinking about going into van life and had some questions about it. And now, why don't you tell people what you're doing?
Wow, I got a van. And that's the coolest part. I absolutely just fell in love with van life and got to experience it vicariously through you. And I just absolutely loved it. And I took the plunge and I went in and found one that was perfect for me as best as I could imagine. And I just ran with it. And I just got it maybe 2 weeks ago. Just got back from a camping trip too. Tested it out for the second or third time this last weekend. And I just love it.
Awesome. So you're still in an apartment right now, and then you're going to be moving into the van. Do you have like a timeline?
I don't have a timeline set, but I figured instead of going completely from stable apartment life in a downtown of a big US city right into van life would be too much. So I built into my budget an overlap where I'm still having rent and I can pay off some of my van that I took on a loan for. So I have a little bit of an expense right now, but that's going to really help me with the transition.
Nice. And so why don't you tell us about the kind of van that you got? I know it's a Class B plus, which is just a little bit bigger than the van Class Bs.
Yeah, so I've been learning a ton and just following your advice. I've been researching and learning as much as I can. I learned that there's nothing even, not even anything called a B plus. It's really class A, B, and C. But you're right. This is a van that is built on a Sprinter chassis. So it's a 25-foot leisure travel van, but it's technically considered a class C, though in the community, colloquially, we call it a class B plus.
So what would you say is the biggest advantage of buying an RV versus building out your own van?
What I wanted to do was start with something that's more built out. So it has a bed already built into it. It had tables. It had um, uh, the basics. And what I'm doing is just upgrading it to become digital nomad worthy. So actually, I want it to be the best digital nomad quarantine mobile that there
Yeah.
possibly could be on the market today. And that's where I'm going to be putting my funds and my resources to upgrade.
Yeah, yeah, and I know something we had talked about too is just that time factor, right? That like you're living in a downtown apartment, like where are you going to put a van while building it? Like get all the tools, get the resources, get the help, and be putting that in. I think that's really important when people are making this decision of, you know, converting your own van is a huge project, like absolutely huge. So it's kind of nice to get that. And the other thing I think for people that might be a downside of buying the Class B is that upfront cost. But I know we had kind of talked about that kind of equals out a little bit to what you're paying in rent. Because it's easier to get a loan on like an RV situation. So can you talk a little bit about like that process for you of
Yeah.
the financing process so that people
Yeah,
can have
you
a
know,
good idea?
ton. And when you decide that you're going to be a full-time RVer, it closes down a lot of options and it opens up a lot of opportunities for you. You just have to not be deterred by what you're not allowed to do and really embrace what you are. For instance, get what you're asking here for. Interest rates were the lowest that the banks could offer. It was a great rate what they're able to offer full-timers, which if you're just buying an RV as a recreational vehicle, it's not a full-time domicile. It is significantly more expensive to secure those loans. So by establishing yourself as a full-time RVer, you get better rates, and you also open up your door to having different protections that are available to you through insurance that wouldn't be available to non-full timers, like home coverage for household items, personal items, things like that that you wouldn't really realize unless you were already full time. So
Right.
shopping around for interest rates were a little bit. There's only a few banks that serve full time RVers, but the rates are much better.
And do you mind sharing who you went through like insurance through when?
Yeah, so Good Sam's was a great resource to get started with. I learned who their bank was, and I worked directly with their bank to secure those rates. And as far as insurance, I shopped around quite a bit. I also looked at Good Sam's for insurance, but at the end of the day, I looked at a few companies and ended up going with Progressive for full-timer RV coverage. They had a much better package and a little bit more reputable in terms of the reviews that I read online for paying out claims.
Awesome. Thank you. So I know you've only had this for a little bit of time so far, but what's your favorite thing about it so far, and what's something that you think might be better in like a different type of rig, like a Class A or a converted van or truck
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
something like
well,
that?
I knew that I'd be surprised with things that I'm going to learn, and so when my best friend Heather and I drove the van back to Austin, where I live from Tucson, we had an overnight plan, and we didn't realize December in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas were almost as cold as anywhere else in the country. So
Yeah.
we didn't have the furnace set up, and so we learned that you really need to understand making sure the basics are covered just in case things break down. So I went out and had to get some electric blanket or something, and a couple more blankets just to keep us warm. Now with the rig that I have, I've been playing with it. There's so much there that I love. It's not a giant rig. It's only 25 feet. So as a single full timer, it's perfect for my needs. It's not too small and it's not too big. It's very easy to maneuver around. I don't have any real regrets at this point.
So clearly, Josh is very happy with his decision. The other kind of RVs that you may want to look into are travel trailers. The pluses for a travel trailer is that you can actually just drop it and be done with it, and then you have your own kind of daily driver to drive around in. This is the same with truck campers. So with the travel trailers, you can do really small little things like a teardrop camper or a little pop-up or an older style, which let me show you actually an older style trailer that I have parked at my dad's house. All right, this is just kind of stashed here, so it's probably not very clean inside, but you'll get the idea. And this is Steven. Steven really likes his trailer life, don't you? Yes, yes, yes. So, in case you want a little trailer, this is an example of that. Steven loves it. You know, we spent a lot of time camping in trailers like this growing up. So, great option. Obviously, this one's a little on the messy side, but if you cleaned it up, you could make it pretty cute. So, Steven approves. The other option for trailers are something a little bit bigger. So you have the big, huge fifth wheelers and toy haulers, which you're going to need a big truck. So this is probably best for somebody who wants to spend a little bit more money but wants a lot more luxurious space. Or maybe you have a big truck already that can pull something and you can find something a little bit older for a little cheaper. My ex and I used to live in an outdoors RV Creekside camper, and it was great for two people. I really loved the travel trailer. One of the reasons I chose not to go travel trailer for mine is because I wanted to be able to, as a solo traveler, go straight from the living space into the cab where I could drive away if anything weird was to happen. So that's kind of a consideration that I have. It's also a lot of work to take down and put up a trailer. You know, you're dropping it, you're leveling it. It's just a kind of a whole bigger consideration than just pulling into a campsite with a van. They're also, you know, obviously just maneuverability in cities can be really hard, going up and down big steep passes. So, you know, plus and minuses to the trailer life as well. My good friend from high school, actually, Cameron, lives in a truck camper. And so here are some thoughts from him about why he chose to go this route.
I started in the van, and then I had the Winnebago, which was awful. um,
What about
yeah,
the Winnebago was awful?
it's huge. It was 29 feet, and it was just
Wow.
me. And those things, you can't take them most places that you can take a van or a truck. So it has to be like perfect conditions
Mhm.
for camping. It has to be flat. Um, it has to be easily accessible. You can't go four-wheel driving in an RV.
Yeah.
Um, so and they're expensive. It was I was getting like 6 gallons, 6 miles a gallon. I mean, it was cool having that much space, but I didn't need that much space. It wasn't in good shape to begin with, and it just didn't have the bones,
Yeah.
so it was cursed.
Yeah, that's hard having to deal with repairs constantly.
Yeah, yeah.
So then, when did you switch over to truck camper life?
I sold the RV in February, um, and I knew I wanted to downsize into a more practical space, and so that's when I started hunting for truck campers. Um,
So why
and
would you go truck camper over like van?
Cost for sure. That was like the biggest thing. Um, Vans. This was before COVID, so vans were um, more affordable than they are now. Before like the big surge of van life, but a truck and a camper. I mean, I got it's a '97 Ford F-250. It has over 200,000 miles on it. I got it for 7 grand, and then the camper was also 7 grand. So fully outfitted rig for less than 15 grand,
Wow.
and I would have paid a lot more if I had gone the van route.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
yeah,
And so you're liking it so far?
I love it. Um, Definitely has pros and cons. One of the cool things about it that I hadn't really planned on is it kind of has trailer qualities in that you can drop it and leave it and
Mhm.
use the truck to get around. So right now I'm in a spot and the camper is detached from the truck, and I
Oh,
use my truck as my daily driver. So I'm not committed to giving up my spot or hauling my full home with me wherever I go, which is pretty great.
so what would you say are some of the cons of the truck camper?
Um, it's big. It's really big, and I mean, it's like at least 8 foot high when it's just on the ground, but then you throw it in the back of a truck and it's like it's as tall as my RV was. So it's not very inconspicuous. It's like if I'm parked in the city, you can tell there's probably somebody in there.
Yeah.
With a van, you can kind of fly under the radar. so that's been the big thing. It's like it's big. It's kind of hard to navigate around
Yeah.
certain places. That being said, um, it's way easier to to drive than an RV because it still is. It's a truck, and I can take it pretty much anywhere the truck can go. And it's a 4x4 truck, so I mean the the possibilities are there are a lot more routes I can go. I've gone on some very sketchy roads that I should. I've almost taken a few times. It's pretty remarkable that it's all in one piece still.
Yeah. So, any other like pros cons that you would share about a truck camper for somebody considering this route?
Um, yeah, I'd say the biggest. I mean, I'm assuming that most people are going to be comparing a van to a truck camper, and um, vans are great because you can kind of build it out to your liking. You can customize the space however you want. It's your project, it's your home. You kind of have a blank slate. And with a truck camper, you don't get a lot of that freedom, but it comes already built. It's already a home. It came with a shower and an oven and a refrigerator, all the bells and whistles already working, and usually for a lot less than you would put into a van. So um, I guess you kind of have to compare how much of a project you want to take on when you're considering it too. The kitchenette, um, and then closet, bathroom. There's a refrigerator over there. Um,
Right.
that's pretty much it.
So, truck camper option is obviously a great option. That's actually one that interests me quite a lot and that I had to think over quite a bit. My first camper was a custom camper that's built together. So there are a number of companies that do this, including the one that did mine was called Phoenix Pop-Up out of Denver, and they built it out on a Land Rover. That guy's dad started Tiger RV, which is awesome. I love their RVs. And then their Earth Roamer, who is like the very high end model of this. And then my absolute dream vehicle is called an Overlander. Comes with like, I don't know, I think it's like 1,500 watts of solar and battery bank and like crazy off-road capable. I love going off-road, so that's why I think the truck campers and the kind of custom trucks are a very interesting option. I will tell you more about why I went with my van a little bit later, but I think this is a great one to look into. All right, welcome to my editing studio. You can see my little editing friends right here. How you doing, Nora? Purring away. Sterling just sleeping away. Oh, there we go. Had to get a little bit of them in this video, right? So I'm here at my dad's house realizing that I didn't introduce Skoolies to you. So Skoolies are a converted school bus. You can either do a short little mini bus or a full-size bus. So we're going to check in with my friend Sara, who I've known forever. And she actually used to live and work out of a school bus. She now primarily works out of it. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her experience in Skoolie life.
I was like, I wanted to start my business, my hat company. So I make one-of-a-kind custom hats. I needed my own space. I needed my own studio. I needed my home. I really am kind of just free-spirited and wanted something that wasn't going to tie me down. I was like, where would I buy a house? I don't know, because that would be really scary because it's stationary. So I got introduced to this Skoolie life. A school bus could be the perfect platform for a home, a studio. It's got wheels. I can take it anywhere. And personally, for me, being an artist with hats, and I have an industrial sewing machine, I needed the biggest bus they make. And it's a 40-foot school bus. If you go bigger than that, it's a coach. I see school buses around all the place. Like, I mean, it's going to be really easy to find a school bus. It is easy to find a school bus if you don't want it to run or go anywhere. If you were looking for a well-oiled run machine, it definitely, it's really hard to come by. And then you start looking into specifics of like what you want. You know, there's features that I wanted a flat nose versus a conventional school bus. A conventional, the nose goes out front, the tires are out front. flat nose. The tires are back behind the driver's seat. The distance between the axles is actually a really short distance, so you can maneuver a flat nose bus super easily. I wanted underbelly storage. I wanted, it's called a retarder, but that's not actually PC correct. I mean, we should find a different term on it. It's like a Jake brake, essentially. It's a magnet that cranks down on your drive shaft, so you can't actually go up into a higher gear. So it's a secondary braking mechanism, which is highly recommended and needed in Colorado. Living in the mountains at 10,300 feet. So, again, like, it was, the universe put it all together, and it's been a beautiful, awesoming, blooming experience. But the school bus, and her name is Lucy, she is what has catapulted everything.
What are some of like your favorite things about the Skoolie versus maybe another kind of thing like an RV or like a van? And what are some of the things that are harder in a Skoolie?
Totally. So again, the Skoolie platform really fit for me as far as what I'm trying to cram in there. Also on the top of Lucy, we've got 6 solar panels pulling 1,800 watts of power, which is like literally enough power to power a house. Yeah, she's a boss. We estimate that if we didn't see the sun at all, and you're doing your daily things, that my unit can run about a week without seeing the sun, which is awesome. I don't know if I want to test that. I accidentally ran the batteries down and was like, ruh-roh. But, again, like, Lucy is literally, it's like 180 square feet in there. So I have a living room. I have a 10-foot studio space that's backed up against my kitchen. And my kitchen has a fridge, a stove, a sink. I have a full closet. I have a full pantry. I've got twin king, not king, not queen. Twin or full? I always get them confused. It's below a queen size bed.
Yeah, probably full. I've seen it. I think it's probably a full.
Yeah, I think it's a full. And then there's my full bathroom. So shower, sink, composting toilet. In the back, I have a full gear room that's totally separate. And back there holds hats, bikes, tools, gear, my 100-gallon water tank, a 30-gallon hot water heater. It's hard because I don't have a vehicle that attaches to Lucy. Like, you should maybe like have a little dirt bike, or you could tow your car. Basically, once like Lucy's parked and we're settled, like, you're not wanting to take her to the grocery store. You also don't want to take a 40-foot school bus to the grocery store. I had never even driven a school bus before I had bought my bus, and let alone a 40-foot school bus. And I've been in some pretty tight, crazy positions, and that's all just due to like, okay, here we are, you're doing it.
Yeah. Did you need a CDL?
You totally do, absolutely. But I don't have one because, exactly. So Lucy was obviously rated as a school bus. I converted it to an RV. So a state trooper had to come out. I had to show power, black water, gray water, like something else. Like, so I had to have like all these things to show that it's like now an RV. Gotcha. The guy never even walked in the bus. He made me turn it on in my turn signals. I was like, dude, come in, check it out. Like, I was so stoked. And he's like, no, it's cool. I just need to see if your blinkers work. And I was like, what? Like, so, I mean, and I've heard also people have gotten the ring through that, like, you didn't meet the requirements. So once it's converted to an RV on paperwork, anybody can drive it, which is really scary because not everybody should be able to drive that bus. Air braking system, over 30,000 pounds, 40 feet. So again, it's a big piece of equipment. It's a commitment. A van, I honestly dream of having a bus and a van. I'm not going to lie. If you didn't need 40 feet, I would not buy 40 feet. It is that much more that you're lugging, paying, hauling, all of it, heating, cooling. If you don't need it,
when I look at school buses, they seem really hard to insulate because of all the windows.
Yeah, totally. So I did a spray insulation on the inside, and you can obviously do different thicknesses. I think we did about 2.5 spray. I personally love the Skoolie windows. Like, it's so much light. It's that feeling. it is the most not efficient part of the bus ever. You might as well just have the damn window open. Like,
Yeah.
but that is something that I was like really wanted, you know?
Totally.
I think the biggest thing is like, truly, what is it that you want out of tiny living? Like, what is it that you want out of this?
Yeah.
Like, what are you willing to compromise and what are you willing to not? Or like, you know, it is really hard to downsize from like a house to a van, let alone, you know, like, I mean, even a bus is in the middle of that, you know? So like, what does that dream and vision look like for you, you know? And like, maybe meeting in the middle too, you know? Like, shoot, dang, a 25, 30-foot school bus? That's like, that's cute. That's perfect.
Yeah. All right. As I trudge through this snow here to get to the garage, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about vans. So this is my mom's minivan camper. So if you have kind of a smaller budget to work with, minivan camper is a great option. And so is just car camping. Honestly, I think the biggest thing about trying to get out there in the world, you know, and to road life, van life is just do it. So if all you can afford is to, you know, live out of your car for a little while, live out of your truck for a little while, obviously there's going to be some cons to that, but the biggest pro is you're doing it. Yeah. So, you know, I started off in my Toyota Camry. So if this is something that you really want to do, don't let cost, you know, completely break you down. You don't have to start with like the perfect Instagrammable Firefly van, you know. All right, so let's do a little tour of my mom's minivan camper. All right, so as you can see, not like huge amount of bells, frills, whistles, but absolutely does it. She uses it just for a little weekender vacation vehicle, but you could totally live out of this if you really wanted to. She uses just a little pee jug for a bathroom if you want to go in the middle of the night kind of thing. And then this is her little kitchen area. So you have the sink here, and then that goes down into like a bucket system down in this area with this little tube, and those buckets are right there for right now. And then, you know, you have your different drawers there, and down in here you've got just little cooking implements. So little stove with just a propane, 1 gallon of propane, and then just all different bowls and things like that. So as you can see, super simple, super easy, but absolutely doable, can make that work. So the other type of van that you could choose to get is a Westfalia here. Or what are some of the other ones? Vanagon?
Yeah, Vanagons or buses. Essentially the two that we have.
Yeah. So this is John.
Sup, dudes?
He works at Eurobus in Buena Vista, and he actually did my electric system and fan and a couple other things in there. So he's going to show us around a Westie.
So here, do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
Are we live?
We're live.
So this is a bus with a Westfalia conversion, but it's pretty simple. I mean, it's from the 70s, so it's super vintagey, but you've got a sink and stove. You could store your tire in here. It comes out, kind of a pain to open it. There's like cabinets space. Over here you got a little fridge. It don't really work that well because it's 70s technology, but it's a Dometic. That's the OG. the piece de resistance is the fact that it's got a pop top. It's so heavy right now.
With all the snow.
Since it's covered in snow. Yeah, I think it's going to be stuck down.
but you sleep up here.
Yeah, you sleep up top.
Up there.
Or you could sleep on the bottom, because this also turns into a bed. Down
Sweet.
low.
And you've lived in them.
Oh, yeah.
So what would you say are some pros and cons?
Well, I currently live in one. So. Pros are, I mean, it's like you're sleeping in a time capsule. So you got to keep, like, vintage nudie magazines from, like, 1970. Just so you feel like you're waking up in the right spot. No, they're, I don't know, they're small, they're cool, you can park in places. Everyone has a story about them, how they used to steal them and get high with their dad. But they also are small, like I said, so, you know, you're cramped up a little bit. Maybe not the most reliable vehicles anymore, because they only go 50 miles an hour, maybe. But, you know, we tune them up. We make them so they'll go 75 if you want them to. So this is the garden van. So as soon as a van is, like, beyond repair or it's too rusty, you can turn it into a garden. Obviously, the garden's dead. But there was kale growing under the seats. We had worms in there. I think they're dead too. We had broccoli and sunflowers coming out of the roof. That's also dead. Yeah. But it had its own watering system. It's got the littlest, tiniest solar panel. So three times a day it waters itself. All you gotta do is fill up the bucket.
Sweet. So then these guys are pretty good off-road. Yeah.
Oh, they're great. So, especially one like this. So this one's actually 4-wheel drive. It's called a Synchro. They're rad because they've got lockers. So you can make it so all 4 wheels are turning at the same time. So you get one wheel up in the air and it'll still pull through. It's like a Jeep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so to sort of cap us off here, I'm going to talk about why I chose to do a self-converted van and chose the one that I did. So with the cargo van option, you're basically going to be choosing between the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, the Ford Transit, the Dodge ProMaster, or the Nissan NV. The Nissan NV just looks the way it laid out, didn't really interest me. So that one was right off the bat. The Dodge ProMaster I drove, and I didn't like the way that it drove. That's not saying that everybody does. I know people who love the ProMaster, and it's a little more boxy inside, so it's easier to build in. And you can like lay sideways because you get a little bit more space. So ProMaster has a lot of great things. I just hated driving it. So that's one of the biggest things when you're choosing a cargo van. Drive all of the options that you're looking at and make a decision based on that, because you want to be comfortable while you're driving. Then it came down to the Sprinter or the Transit, and also gas versus diesel. I'll go a lot more into this in the online course because I want to keep this brief, but basically I chose the Ford Transit gas EcoBoost because I loved the way it drove, and I preferred a Ford gas model because I tend to travel in very rural areas and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on repairs or have to wait a long time to get Mercedes-Benz parts. So that was my reasoning behind the Ford Transit. I would have loved to maybe hire a professional to do it, but I don't have that kind of money. It's pretty expensive. So that's why I went with self-converted. I did the whole design myself, and I did end up paying a couple people to just help with parts of it. So that's how I kind of negotiated the professional versus personal build out, is just have some people help me along the way. For those of you wanting to do it on your own, I will just tell you right now, it is hard. If you have a lot of construction experience, it's, you know, gonna be a lot easier for you. If you don't, you can absolutely do it. There's tons of YouTube videos. There's tons of how-tos on this stuff. Just expect it to take a lot of time. If you're on a really tight schedule, you might want to do kind of a no-build build where you just, you know, throw a mattress in here and throw a camp stove and do it kind of that way, rather than investing a ton of time and money into a huge build. And honestly, if you haven't been on the road before, my suggestion is, unless you're really certain about what you want, take the time, maybe do a no build, maybe rent some RVs or vans or something off of outdoorsy.com, which I'll link below, but that allows you to maybe take something out for a weekend and just start to see what you really want. Because once you put that time and energy in, then you've spent, 6 months to a year building something out, and then you decide, oh, this isn't what I actually really want after all. I have a lot of friends who thought that they wanted a convertible bed that switches from a bed to a couch, and after time decided that they wanted a fixed bed because it's just a lot of effort to constantly be doing that. Not all of them, some of them love it. So it's just really based on your needs. I really wanted to do a self-converted van because after living on the road in many different iterations, I absolutely, really had a great understanding of what I wanted personally. And I thought it would be fun to design. And it's really cool because the big pro of that, right, is you get to be involved in every design decision, from the color of the paint on the cabins or on the cabinets to, the type of wood that we used. We used black walnut, like right here, cedar on the walls. And I really love every decision that I got to make and really be completely intertwined with. Also, when I have things go wrong in the van, I have a pretty great understanding of how to fix them. So when I had a propane leak, I know exactly where all the fittings are, versus if I had an RV or something that somebody had converted for me, I probably wouldn't have as good of an idea of how to really go around and find where each propane fitting is and what I need to take apart to do that. So that was a big reason that I wanted to do the self-converted van as well. Thank you for joining me again this week. I hope you enjoyed this installment of how to get started in van life. Next week, we are going to be talking about van life essentials. So what do you need to build into your van or buy just to be a little bit more comfortable? And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about campsites and community. So make sure to subscribe and hit your notification button if you're interested in this series. And if you want to dive deeper, remember to get that course below. Have lots of cool things coming up, so make sure to follow me on Instagram at Firefly and I, where I'm going to be announcing some really cool projects coming up very soon. Thank you so much for watching again today. Mwah, mwah, mwah. You all are amazing and awesome, and I appreciate you all very much. Have a wonderful new start to 2021. 2020 is finally over. Can we all dance about that? And I will see you next week.